Now gold is not enough.
Hello, everybody. Today I'm here with Kelvin Genn. Paulo told me that he is so connected with the ideas we've been sharing over here. So I started doing a small research. And of course, Paulo was right. A lot of great posts on LinkedIn, a lot of job related to what we've been learning and sharing this channel. So Kelvin, thank you for accepting my invitation. And can you tell us a little bit about your background and how did you get involved with all this wave of the new view?
Yeah, well, thank you very much for the invitation to have this conversation. I'm very keen, and for me, an opportunity to reach a group of people I haven't had the opportunity of reaching before. A little bit of background. So Sydney Decker and myself have been working together for probably nearly 13 or 14 years, and Sydney had been sort of promoting his work around his ideas about thinking differently in terms of human error and accidents and a range of other things. And we were very interested to try and turn those ideas into a different way of thinking about safety. So that's what we originally put together, a group of interested people in business and academia. And this is about it would be about 12 years ago now that we started the process, and that's where Safety Differently was created. So the concept of Safety Differently was this idea to bring Sydney's ideas into practice and how to put them in practice in different organisations. And so we embarked upon that for initially trying to get different groups and communities together. And a few years after that, we got to the point about 2015 where we thought it'd be probably a good idea to create an organisation that could help translate the ideas into practice, and that's when Art of Work was born. So Art of Work was a collaboration between myself and Sydney Decker and a couple of other founders in that process. And from there, the journey began, and we've been working and communicating initially in Australia. We've been also engaging the conversation in the UK and in Europe, and we've started, trying to also engage that discussion in the US as well. I suppose it's been an interesting journey in that space where we've learnt a lot, and the ideas are starting to spread. We're seeing them take hold in that process, and we're also trying to learn from everyone who's taking these ideas forward and thinking about how we actually further develop the concept. So the more people we involve, I think the richer the conversation.
Yes, that's the idea of the channel as well. We've been bringing Brazilian and Portuguese speakers to the conversation. So I have a group of volunteers that include Portuguese captions on these conversations. And the first thing that caught really my attention related to the Art of Work was a project that you guys suggested to companies that was coming back due to the COVID. So thinking about how to safely come back to the offices and to operations. Could you share a little bit about us? How did you guys develop such a great project?
Well, as COVID really started to emerge in a real impact in March of this year, we felt there was a real need to try and find experts in a range of different fields around COVID who could help businesses and organisations, work successfully with COVID and understand what the risks are, both to the people that work in those organisations, and also the interactions between those organisations and the public. So we started a partnership with the Australian Institute of Health and Safety, and that was a collaboration to try and reach out and firstly connect together the experts in the field at the time, but also to connect together and collate the best resources and information that we could. So there was a two-part process to that. One was the creation of the webinar series that we ran, and through that series we're getting up to 2,000 people attending those webinars as we went through them, and also the creation of a COVID portal where we tried to find and share what the latest information was in a way that we brought together a whole range of different resources into that space. And so, yeah, that was the process we went on, and we did that. I think it was about 6 webinars that we ran over that series.
Yes, I've been through them and they were great, and even the solutions that you provide for the offices and the layout and everything. But again, when a company reaches you, what kind of problems they are facing in general? So what kind of solutions have you been providing this since you guys started this company?
Yeah, we do a number of things. I mean, the primary thing that we work with organisations is to really understand the principles of safety differently, and hence there's really 3 key things that we try and engage organisations with, and firstly being that shift from people being a problem to control to being a solution to harness. It's the easiest idea to communicate. It is readily recognised by every company that engages in space, and it's a very difficult one to execute. People love the idea, but when they realise what it means to put it into practice, to actually go in and trust the people at the front line and actually harness their expertise, a lot of particularly middle management find that quite difficult to transition into that space.
I think that they feel like they are losing power and control over people. So have you experienced some kind of people coming back to the old view after a few time? Yes.
Yeah, it's quite common, and Hugo, one of the really interesting things is we've had a lot of experience now in putting this across many different organisations around the world on a very large scale. So we've sort of seen all sorts of things in this space. We would say there's nearly 2 groups within an organisation that we deal with, and one group is the operational management. The people who actually run the organisation and do the business of the organisation. Their job is, to deliver the organisational outcomes. That's the other group are the safety specialists. The people who are installed there to advise the businesses about the safety. So what we find is the operational group really understand the ideas of safety differently really well, and it's very natural for them to take place. The group that finds it really hard are the safety specialists, and even when they initially come into it, they're the ones who want to always go back to the old ways. They're much more comfortable in a reactionary mode, much more comfortable, like we say, driving the fire truck. They like the sirens on, being the frontline responders, and out there waving the flag of, we're here to solve your problems.
I've been reading the Dave Proven work together with Sydney as well, and he criticizes the safety pros in a unique way, and you are totally right. So I'm a safety pro, and I've been writing a paper on the heat map of the safety pros inside the organization, where they should be and where they are, and it's totally what you are mentioning.
Yeah, and Dave Proven's done a lot of work around the space, but there's the safety professionals that often generated their value by their actions that they do. So the more procedures that they make, the more counting of things that are done, inspections, and the more reports that they produce, and the more pages in a monthly report that they produce, they think that's a better result. And the safety differently says, well, the less pages you put in a report is the better, and the less procedures that you make is the contribution that you make. The more you simplify things and you make things, really self-determined and self-managed, and put people in control. And the transition then for safety professionals is into one of a facilitator rather than being a policeman. And but they're the group that has difficult. But it's not their fault. A lot of it comes from the top level of management, and in terms of the first time that you have the next serious incident, and if you've been implementing safety differently, the response will be, oh, that's because we're doing safety differently. We need to go back to the old way, rather than understanding that even in safety differently, you're still going to have incident events, and it's a progression as you work forward. It's really that early stage, in that sort of 6 to 12 month period, as organisations taken these ideas, they can very easily move back to a reactionary mode.
Yes, that's something that I've been watching in some companies over here as well.
Yeah. So that's what I say in that first principle. Getting people to be seeing a solution, and we've worked out some techniques to really bring this forward, which have been much more successful in that mode. The second thing about trying to shift them into thinking about the presence of positives rather than the absence of negatives. So the real focus on performance metrics like recordable incident frequency rates and things like this, is rather than trying to have lower counts of incidents and these things as being the measure of safety, to move into that whole noble space, so the presence of positive capacity. So how do you understand the adaptive capacity of the business, and how do you make things go right more often rather than avoid things from going wrong? That is quite a difficult space, because a lot of it is driven around the performance metrics. And so what we've found is that one of the tasks you have to do is actually bring in new metrics, which are about adaptive capacity, and fade out the old metrics, which is around the absence of negatives. You can't just switch them on and off, but you need to give the leadership a better tool to understand the safety capacity of their organizations. And the last one, around the ethical responsibility is also one we work very hard on, because there's a bit of a belief around safety differently that it's reducing accountability, and it's reducing the responsibility for the front line for safety. And it's really the opposite of that. You're actually increasing accountability and responsibility in the organisation, but you're increasing it in every domain. You're asking the procurement people to take on responsibility for the choices they make, for the tools and equipment and things that they provide to the workforce, and take responsibility for what impact that has on safety. And you're asking line management to take responsibility for the amount of time and resource that they provide for the work to be done, so there's sufficient resourcing that's in place. And you're asking your human resources people to ensure that there's people are getting the right development of their skills and abilities and capacities. So it's really understanding this idea that it's about getting everyone to be actively engaged and think about what they do, how it impacts the people at the front line.
Yes, totally right. So have you seen any company developing tools or practices for the concepts that caught your attention somehow that you think these guys are doing a good job that you could share with us?
Yeah, look, I think there's lots of organisations that have done different things. And look, I think the tool that we've seen is the most powerful out there in this space are learning teams. And learning teams, and again, I've seen many examples where learning teams are not done right. In the safety differently view of learning teams, it's about thinking about where's the best place to learn in the organisation, and we would say that's not trying to learn differently about incident or events, where a lot of the learning teams there's been a lot of learning team focus on saying let's investigate incident events differently and come at it from the new view. Our experience is saying that's not very productive, in that even in a well-structured learning model of that view, people are still very defensive. Once an event has occurred, they're very protective and don't really want to share anything that they might be considered ill of because of a decision that they've made or something like that. Even though the investigation is cast. So we find that doesn't work very well. But what we find is organisations are moving the space where they go into space where an incident hasn't occurred, but work is quite difficult. It's not going well. There's lots of signs about, for a whole range of you'll see different metrics. And going into that space and taking this learning team into that space is a really constructive thing. The people will share with you all sorts of things that are not within the system. They might be, workarounds, breaches. They share them with you, that they're things that they would normally could be subject to discipline for a breach of the rule. But they don't want to be doing those things. They don't want to be doing the workarounds, but they want to solve the problems. So we're seeing a number of organisations go down this space of thinking about learning teams, and that becomes quite transformational. You see really great innovations, improvements, and they're not just related to safety, they're related to productivity and safety at the same time. You get this combined effect. So we're seeing that in organisations, like Qantas, like BHP. We've seen it in organisations like Merseycare in the UK, in the health system there. In Laing O'Rourke in construction, there's a whole range of organisations that have really tapped into this idea and made it work. So I think that's one of the really productive spaces, and what we find that does is that changes the value of the safety proposition, and safety gets to be seen as a contributor to the success of the organisation. And then you can start to build out the concepts from there. There's demonstrable trust. There's demonstrable, I suppose, examples of capacity that's built through this process. And it sort of becomes a way of expanding out from the exercise into the broader organisation, from a view of this is working well, let's do more of it, rather than this is a good idea and let's impose it upon you. Let people see it in practice and then say, yeah, we want to be part of that.
So Kelvin, related to learning teams, I really believe it's going to be the future tool for the new viewers and the companies that decide for this implementation. And one question that is always popping in my mind is how a big company or a company with multiple sites can share their learnings among them in a way that it's valuable to everybody. Because usually the learnings stops in a middle level, or it usually doesn't go until the top of the organization. So I think it's important to share to avoid similar situations in different sites.
It's not an easy problem to overcome it. I don't think there's any single solution in that space. Often we sort of believe that the more that you can tap into the organic communication within the company, the better the chance of sharing. So the learning team model that we've seen that works quite well is to firstly it's thinking about the topic that you choose to learn from. And again, going back to our earlier conversation, is moving that out of the domain of the traditional subject matter experts, the safety team, to choose the topics. Is we say that the topic should be chosen by the group that's going to participate in the learning team, by frontline people. So the first step is trying to find something that interests them, and let them choose the topic. And the more granular in terms of the simpler the topic that you pick, the more successful it will be. An example would be, if you're looking at rail operations, is go down to a depot and have the shunting team pick a topic of something that's really interesting to them about the work that they do in shunting trains. And by doing that, you give them ownership of that, and also give the local management team ownership over activating that topic. Now, by doing that, you're connecting into the frontline communication channels in their own right, which are very different to the formal corporate communication channels in that space. So by doing so, you run a topic that's of interest to that group, and you feed it back to the local management team, who then engage with the senior management team on what they've learned. And the first principle of this is, any of the findings, or the report that's produced, or the findings that are found, they're freely available to anyone. So the first thing is not to protect the findings, even if they find things that are uncomfortable or whatever. The first thing, you get agreement from both the frontline management and the high management team, is it's okay to share this information. We're not going to try and hide something, in that space. So firstly, you have it freed, and secondly, you allow the people who do that and who get the feedback from that to share it in any way that they like. So the informal network will be far better at sharing and communicating than the formal network will be in that space. So what we've found is, if you get a topic and there's some really interesting things that are found, and really some challenging things that are found, and allow it to be shared, it will actually make its own way through the organization. It'll actually get to the people just by the nature of different people who are influential, but might not be organizationally responsible for the work that's done. So it's a bit like thinking about how things get shared on social media. Is take the social media approach and allow things to be shared, allow it to go viral, right? In its own right. Whereas, and particularly, this is again the point of moving away from an incident, something serious, because once you do that, there's a whole lot of constraint that's put around it, maybe by lawyers, maybe by governance within who don't want to have this information openly shared. By picking a learning team that's topic that's outside of that space, I think it really helps to solve this problem of communication and sharing. So
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's about allowing the natural communication pathways to be activated.
Usually we think that frontline operators, they give more attention when senior leader is sending an email or something like this, but I think it could work in the past. nowadays,
I
as you mentioned, if it's an informal conversation in the cafeteria or something popped in, even using the social media of the company or something
yeah,
like this,
a lot of
has a lot
companies
more
use.
effect.
Yeah, a lot of companies do use social media of one form or another. It might be workspace, the Facebook version of that. And there's different social media platforms that operate within companies. Well, encourage that. I've been involved in some interesting studies with some companies. One organisation I was with, they did a map. And in that map, what they did was they looked at the organisational chart as who's responsible to who, mapped all that out, and then they mapped the communications in the company. And what they followed was who's talking to who on email, who's having chatting to who on email. And what they did in that was they looked at how a decision's been made in the organisation, and was it happening by the formal structure, in terms of were all the decisions being made in line with that. And what they found out was that there was very little match between the formal structure and the informal communication, and how things actually happened were through these informal relationships. It's the influences, it was the networks of people. That's how decisions and real communication happened. So I think we often are misled to think that we can communicate down from the top and everyone's listening. I don't think that's the case.
Yes, something that is always important about learning things is that we need to move on from that idea of learning just when something bad happens, from
Yeah,
incidents or loss of production or quality
yeah.
requirements not being reached. But how can we choose? You kind of gave us an idea, but how can we, as safety pros, noticing that something is adding value, is going to add value to the frontline operators, as you mentioned, going away from demonstrate safety work and getting inside physical stuff and things that really is going to make the risk being reduced somehow.
Yeah, so I think it's there's certainly value from the safety professionals in their interactions across the workplace in seeing different trends and things like that. So it's more the approach that you take. If you take that back to the frontline teams in as a facilitator to say, we're seeing this, which is interesting. And is there something you can share that we can learn about from what we've observed, as opposed to here's something that's gone wrong and we need to come and investigate it. There's nothing wrong, I think, with safety people initiating an idea with a frontline workplace, but do it from a position of curiosity as opposed to judgment. It's a shift in that lens. So I think that's quite important. It's not about not making those observations, but it's about the tone and the style of how you introduce those and engage with the frontline teams.
Yes, that's really important to my colleagues being aware of. Tough question now. Some of the criticals about the against the new view or the safe differently is that it's not practical or it's not applicable. It's just words. What can you say in the new viewer's defense? How can we fight against this?
I would say the old view is not practical, and every time I see another layer of procedures or more rules put in place, to me that's not practical. The whole point of safety differently is thinking about how do you integrate, improve, and simplify. How do you have a few and simple rules, that are there to design to make the work safe and successful. So the whole point of safety differently is to make it easier and more functional. And I find it very hard to argue against saying, in our old view of the world, the more that we complicate things, the more that we build manuals that are hundreds of pages in sizes, the more that we put, more checklists and steps that people have to do. to me, that's a very hard argument to win and say this is a better way of doing work. So, and we've seen many examples. And what I'd say the evidence of safety differently is that you see very significant improvements in workplaces, both from a productivity point of view and from a safety point of view, from very simple ideas. And that's where the gain is. And we've done this test many times in workplaces where we go to safety teams and say, in the last 12 months, what have you been involved in that made a significant improvement or an innovation into how work was done? Right? And I don't think I'm yet to come across a safety person who says, oh, yeah, I was involved in this and this is how it really improved work. Yeah, they can tell you about every investigation or every intervention, all that, but our traditional focus on safety is not connected with improvement. It's only connected with some form of more levels of compliance and rules, without being accountable for what those rules do or how they actually function with the real work that's done.
Yes, I totally agree, because the safety pros, it's a critical from me, cutting my own my own fresh meat, that
Yeah.
we doesn't get deep enough on science, and
Yeah.
we need to do this better, and we need to understand what really helps and what really works
Yeah.
inside. And we are not usually, we need to stop trying to protect our own work, our own job,
Yeah.
our own position, and start protecting the employees. That's
Yeah.
why companies are paying us for.
Yeah, I agree completely. That's what we're there for. And this is the real nature of why we were established as a profession, is to actually help and improve work. And I think we sort of got lost somewhere in that space. And safety has become about the doing of safety rather than, creating better and safer workplaces.
Yes. So we need to understand that safety doesn't exist by itself. Nobody
No.
lives and nobody creates a company to produce safety, So it needs to
No.
be integrated fully and oriented to, as you mentioned, perform the operations better, and
Yeah.
the safety is going to emerge. There is no other way.
Yeah, no, and we see this all the time. I think it's very hard to separate these two ideas, and I think for too long, safety has done that, saying, "Well, you just have to do this because safety is an obligation and it's the law. We don't have to think about the other consequences that we have on the organisation."
Yeah, the easiest thing for a safety pro to do is stop work. It's
Yeah,
everybody can do this. Okay,
yeah,
here's my card. Stop the work. It's not safe.
yeah.
Okay, everybody can do this, but go
Yeah,
far and
and
beyond.
yeah, and I think this is one of the really interesting challenges. And I've thought, I've been involved in a number of very significant things, but in events like a significant natural disaster, I've been involved in a number of, significant earthquakes, those sorts of things where there's been a lot of destruction of a city, for example. And it's really interesting in these really difficult environments where you've got teams of people who have to go in and then think about rescuing people in those environments, is where does safety operate in that space? And if we apply our traditional notions of safety, we probably wouldn't do one rescue of any person in that, because it is that the only answer we can come up with is stop the work. We should not do this because it's not safe. Rather than thinking, how does safety enable us to work effectively in these really difficult and challenging environments? And I think safety's gone to this place now of it's disengaged from that discussion about operating in difficult environments, and it's more that the easy solution is if it doesn't meet the rules, you just stop, and that just doesn't meet with the reality of the nature of work and what happens out there in the workplaces.
Yes, I totally agree. Kelvin, time is flying, and I want you it's marketing time. How can you help the companies that are facing those challenges as what are kind of solutions that Art of Work can
Yeah.
provide? How can they reach you guys? So feel free to.
Yeah, I'm very glad for anyone to reach out, have a look at our website, but there's lots of things that we do. And we've discussed learning teams. We're training people in learning teams all over the world. So we're running those programs so people can, you know, either work directly with us or in the public domain. We're running public courses as well in that space and doing that. And equally, we have a number of specialised tools, particularly around measurement and critical risk, and thinking differently about critical risk, and using. It's actually we've worked a lot to bridge the gap between the safety 1 thinking and the safety 2 thinking, and bringing some of these structural tools into place with trying to understand how you combine the frontline view with the risk management view and things like that. So they're the sort of things that we do as an organisation is bring these types of ideas together, and also we do a lot in trying to think about how you actually bring the ideas into a whole organisation and, you know, engage an entire organisation in that process.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It was a masterclass.
I really appreciate the opportunity, Hugo, and thank you for the invitation. And I look forward to a whole level of initiative and engagement coming out of the, you know, the communities that are connected, you know, through Brazil and through the Portuguese-speaking world as well. I think that's a whole new domain, and I think it's really interesting.
For sure, we've been trying.
Yeah. And thank you for your effort in this space.
Thank you. See you soon.